Hey there, this is Therese Skelly, and I am so excited that you are going to be listening to an episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. Do you like those two words? Fiercely Brilliant. My hypothesis is that you are here for a reason. We all are. Our souls have led us on journeys that have very often taken some twists and turns, and sometimes it's not pretty. Sometimes there's struggle and there's loss and there's challenge, and in the middle of that, there's always a way out. And it's those times that often lead us into our great life and work. So you're going to hear stories in these episodes of myself and other beautiful people that share the journey. They share how they got to the place where they're standing, working in their brilliance, and being the powerful leaders that they are. So stay tuned and enjoy this episode. Hi, this is Therese Skelly with another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. And oh goodness, I am just going to say, I have a total girl crush on my guest, for my guest today. Mutual. We have this like big love fest happening. So this is Wendy Collier. Wendy and I have been colleagues for years, right? We followed each other. I've spoken on some of her summits. And so I'm like, we have to have you on my show to have my people hear you. And so Wendy, welcome. Again, I always like to hang out on your energy. And so tell us what you do and what you love about it.
I love that question. It's so juicy. So I'm a transformational business coach. Business coaching is a little boring, a little dry. Right, I definitely do the transformational work within so that the outer results can be achieved in what I call a soul-fueled business, a business that is rooted and the foundation is rooted in your soul fuel, what your soul is here to do. And then providing and equipping the training and the education, the skills, skill development around the marketing and the business in and out of all that to make that work, to make that abundant and fruitful.
Beautiful. Well, I will tell you, I've been interviewed loads and hundreds of times. And Wendy is probably the best telesummit hostess. Like I love being on Wendy's shows because of the soul-fueled thing, you know what I mean? And because of your energy, I think we're really similar, but you have such a standards of excellence. Like the work you do is just excellent.
Thank you.
And I know that sometimes just because we look all shiny, we have our stuff together today, it wasn't always that way, right? And so, so I know that you have, what I call a journey story. And so,
hello.
So where do you want to start? Like just letting folks sort of get to know you and kind of how you got to the brilliance that you are today.
Thank you. Yeah, do not let outward appearances deceive, in terms of any conclusions one might draw about how someone got to be where they are today, or that it was easy breezy, And before you and I began, we were sharing that there are so many stories, so many times in my life and in my journey, my business journey included, where there were extreme difficulty. And it was like, how do I pick one?
Right.
So I think the most poignant, sort of season in my life was approximately 16 years ago. So a little while ago. But that's when I really started to feel the stirring within me. I was working for, a very well-known company in the Silicon Valley. I was in high tech and senior marketing positions, blah, 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 all the things. And feeling deep emptiness, like really, we're talking empty. Yeah. And, having trouble even falling asleep at night because I felt so empty, didn't want to wake up in the morning to do it all over again, right? Wow. So there was that deep sense of knowing I was meant for more. I had a call in my life, and there was the fear and the I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do. I have no idea, right? Mm-hmm. So I just shot in the dark, chose the first business. One of the first businesses I chose to try was a real estate investing business. And its mission was to fund the freedom of exploited children worldwide. Oh. And so right about that time, I met someone who I thought was the love of my life. And it all seemed perfect because he was interested in starting his business. I had already started the business. He happened to have an interest in real estate investing. So we joined forces. We fell in love. Well, we fell in love, and then we joined forces. And I was thrilled because I was, a bit later in the game in terms of age that you usually get married.
Right.
And my family was thrilled, and they were like, oh my gosh, everyone was just so on board. And the proposal itself was insane. I was in Italy on a girls' trip, and he actually arranged with my girlfriends. He planned the whole thing and flew over there at the end of our trip, right before we were going to leave, flew to Italy to propose. And it was this dramatic, insane, out of a movie proposal on a private island off the coast of Tuscany, blah, blah, blah. So I was just ecstatic. I was so happy. And then we also had this business, compatibility piece. So we went into the business together and began building our lives. And we were living in the San Francisco Bay Area. We decided to move to a beautiful town in Southern California, and where I am from, and where I have family still there and all of that. And so he bought this beautiful home, and we were engaged to be married, like, obviously. And we were going to root our lives in this gorgeous, perfect, like, picturesque community in this perfect house. And he bought a house for us and all the things. It was looking good. It was looking good. Like, all the plans were in place, and like the wheels were in motion. And, we were about 8 weeks from the wedding, which is just around the corner. So everything was already done, solidified, bought, everyone's plane tickets were bought, hotels booked, it was a done deal. And I woke up on just an average day. I woke up one morning, I was starving. And there was just hardly any food in the house. We were just getting settled. And I found this banana in the house, and I ate a banana. And I thought, I'm just holding off until my fiance wakes up, because we're probably going to go out to breakfast together. So I found something to hold me over. My blood sugar was crashing. So there I was. And I suddenly was confronted with him in the kitchen, and he was extremely angry that I had grabbed this last banana. And the next thing I knew, he was shoving me across the room, aggressively, forcefully, violently, slammed me up against the wall, was yelling and screaming in my face. It was insane. It was just this.
He had never done that before?
Never. No sign.
Yeah.
Although there's always signs. There was there were emotional things happening that didn't make sense, and this is the point of the story, because I felt real concern, before. And in fact, I had moved the wedding date once, and I was feeling concerned, but ignoring my own intuitive guidance.
That's what we do. Yes.
Because of the external opinions and expectations, and everyone wanted this for me, right? No fault of their own. And they didn't know all the intimate details. Some people did, and they were still encouraging. So the emotional, yes, there were emotional, unhealthy, very unhealthy emotional things going on. That was the first time it manifests physically. I consider that moment against the wall to be the best moment of my life.
Wow.
The best.
Okay, go deeper with that.
My life.
In what way?
Was him there, and the whole best moment ever. That was the biggest wake-up call. It was the wake-up call of my life that I needed, that I hadn't had prior, obviously, and that I needed that moment in order to do the work I do in the world today. And there's nothing else that would have caused that awakening to happen other than something like that for me. It needed to show up physically for me to believe it, and to understand really what was happening, and to have it in my face was huge. And I always refer to that moment as my ticket to freedom. And it's so, that's why I have my summit called My Ticket to Freedom was that wake up. And then the realization that I needed to now get out of this immediately. Like, I was not the woman who was going to try to figure this out. Because we had already done premarital counseling. We had already done, and there were problems already showing up, and counselors showing concern, but not saying concern. They were just showing it in their faces to me. And so I knew I then needed to dismantle the whole thing. He had just bought a house that was a couple $1 million. We had moved our lives 400 miles. We had both of our families, couple hundred people going to the wedding. It was significant.
Wow. So how did you have the courage basically to call the family, to tell him, like, because that is huge. It would have been so much easier just to quiet the voices and go along because everybody had a path for you already set. And it looked good. $2 million house. It looked good, right?
It looked great on the outside. Like on the outside, it looked beautiful. Wow. Like everything. He was also physically beautiful. It was a whole, everything looked
right.
The house was beautiful. He was beautiful, the whole thing, and it's very deceptive when you're in that situation, especially when we're all conditioned with the media and whatever about what it's all supposed to look like. Right.
Right.
So first of all, I couldn't tell him right away because he showed a side of him, a Jekyll Hyde situation, a side of him that I didn't know existed before at that level. And so I needed to be very slow, careful, and safe in how I exited the situation. So I actually led him on to believe that we might have a chance for a little while until I transitioned out. With respect to my, finding the courage, it was very much, no one else is going to be married to this man but me. No one else is going to be living this life but me. They're not going to be living with him, married to him. They're not going to be living my life. Easy for them to say whatever they feel. It's my life. It's my marriage. It's going to be my husband. I can't do this. This is, if he's doing this right now, what's he doing
5 years.
a year in, 5 years?
Right.
Yeah. So not okay. So I think the courage came from realizing it was honestly, Therese, because I had feelings and inklings before that, it was the physical manifestation that gave me the courage. Because it was like, okay, Wendy, your gut your gut was right. Like you knew something was wrong, but you couldn't put your finger on it. Now it's in your face. Now, okay.
So it was easier, even though it was hard because of all the stuff you had to overcome. It was the confirmation, right? It was the confirmation that was like, I was right. So why do you think, I'm going to use you and then women.
Yeah.
How do we get talked out of our knowing? Like you had the clues, right? You knew, and yet. So let's talk about that, because that's what happens for a lot of women we work with.
Yeah. I love that you put it that way. Talked out of your knowing. Yeah. And this starts, I think, as little girls. I mean, a lot of it's social conditioning.
Right.
I mean, depending on the family, your family of origin, depending on the people that were around you, certain families are a little, more evolved past this. Yeah. But we're often told, that not to... There's a lot of discounting of how one feels when you're growing up, because parents with all their good intentions and good hearts want to direct and guide their kids, and they have a prescribed path usually ahead of time, like they need to do these things. Right. So if the child expresses any diversion from those things because they feel differently, or they have an inkling, or they feel like they're being guided, even though they don't use those words, the parent's going to try to get them back on the path.
Yeah.
Right. So it's good intention, well intended, but it does train us from birth to question where we think we should go, because someone was always there saying, no, you're not going to make money doing that. Or, artists, you may not be able to sell your painting. All this stuff is continually being told to us. And by the time you become a full-blown adult, which I was a full-blown adult, I was still looking to others and listening more to their advice than my own inner knowing. Like I knew that I knew something was off.
Right. So how did you get from, we obviously know you got out, but then you have this beautiful concept of SoulFUEL. So how, did this kind of horrific wake-up call lead to the creation? So talk about that.
Yeah. So that is when that is the origin of my SoulFUEL, was that moment against the wall, because I needed to, again, see it for what it was, face it. And then I also knew I needed to figure out how I got there. Yeah. How did I get there? Right. And then I knew once I figure out how this happened, I want to help other women, not necessarily with domestic violence, but just I want to help other women to tap in, tune in, and turn on their own inner knowing, so they can make the best decisions for themselves in their job, relationship, all the things. I am a business coach, so it applies, you know, I'm using that as my skill set for that, but it applies across the board, you know, to everyone. And so my soul fuel is to facilitate the awakening, healing, and empowerment of women. And that was born in that moment. And I needed to find it for myself first, legitimately, with integrity and full alignment. So from that moment to the launch of my business was actually about 8 years.
Okay.
Before I fully healed,
worked on it. Yeah.
Stepped in, never turning, I left him right away, you know, within a month or two to unwind. I had to move and all that stuff. But in terms of my own awakening, healing, and empowerment, it was a good 8 years before I felt confident enough that, okay, I can now lead women down, you know, down the path of full empowerment, of full trust and confidence in themselves and in their inner knowing. Yeah.
That's a great story. And I love, you know, sometimes my clients will come to me saying like, gosh, I'm not really working in my business. And yet they're doing their soul work. They're doing the healing work. They're doing what you did, getting in alignment, making sense of things, not doing it again. Right. And they go, oh, but I didn't do enough marketing, didn't make money. And so I feel like we measure the wrong things. We measure the productivity and the output, and we neglect the inner work. You're working on your business, you're working on yourself, so you're working on your business. So why don't you speak to that? Because I feel like people get like, something's wrong with me that I have to do this now, as opposed to in terms
of a business.
Yeah, like something's wrong with me that I'm working on healing now and I'm not generating as much money, or something's wrong with me that you know what I mean? And what I just heard you say is it took you 8 years to be in the space emotionally and energetically where you can say, okay, years. I mean, I love that you can share that story instead of, I was an overnight sensation. Bullshit. Nobody does that. So let's talk about the importance of the self-work, I think.
Yeah. During those 8 years, I did start I had other businesses. I actually wrapped up the real estate investing, and then I did another marketing consulting business. And my point in sharing that is that I just chose the business that at the time I could do with integrity.
Beautiful.
Right. So then I transitioned, because I did the real estate was no big deal. It's just like properties. Yeah. So it had nothing to do with like my own anything.
You weren't selling yourself.
Yeah. Right. And then the marketing consulting was just corporate accounts, just, you know, same old, just easy breezy while I was healing.
Right.
And then it wasn't until I felt I was really in a position where I could legitimately, authentically, with integrity, be there as a women's empowerment coach, and essentially until, you know, about 8 years after, and then now through, you know, I've been in business 8.5 years now in this business. So I think what's important during that transition time, when you're in that healing period, which is essential and absolutely necessary, is to, if you want a business, is to work on a business, side gig or full time, that you are in integrity with.
Good.
Right. And that might be something different than the next evolution of your business or your work. And that's okay. Like, we go through these iterations, right? And these cycles, hopefully. I mean, we're really dynamic. We evolve. As we evolve and grow ourselves, that's when our businesses evolve and grow. Right. Exactly. And that's going to look different now, perhaps, if you're in the middle of a lot of healing, than it will in 5 years or 10 years. And that's okay.
So how do you tell people to quiet your mind and surrender? Because sometimes that's what it takes. You know, we get the masculine way of doing things is just more hustle. And what I heard you allow was for the next thing to emerge, and like, oh wait, that's not aligned. Hold on. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a formulaic, here's my 7-step plan for you to get to the $1 million, right? It was organic. It was internal. Like, it was soul fueled for you.
Yeah.
So how do you help people navigate that process?
Well, that I would say is that's what I do in SoulFUEL Discovery, which is one of my signature courses, and that is all about going within. It is about tuning in. And like I say, tune in, tap in, turn on that inner source of knowledge, inner source of wisdom, listening to your body wisdom, and creating that space and the time for yourself to go within and to find those places that still need healing, and then to amplify the strengths you have, right? They're there. Even in our lowest of lowest moments, you've got strengths that you can bring to the table to do something with and to create something with. Mm-hmm. So the quiet, I talk about that a lot, is like morning routines, spiritual practices, energy practices, going within. I don't know how people do it without some kind of meditation practice, guided visualizations, Kundalini, breath work, those are so important. Journaling, walks in nature, journaling, intention setting, all that good stuff, right?
That's really
It's essential. I do it every day myself, those things.
Yeah, good. So what if somebody has like, I think I want to do this. I think this might be my soul calling, but hey, is that really going to make me money? Or I don't know if I'd be like, what are they going to think if I do that? Right? Like, how do you help people just like, hear it, commit to it, get it out in the world? Because it can be scary. You left corporate, you left Silicon Valley, and you're a transformational business coach. Like people must think like you're a wackadoo. Like, why would you leave the corporate world, right? And I know that's another story.
No one asks that anymore, though. Like they might ask in the beginning, but
there we go.
They're like, "How'd you do it? Can you show me?"
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you help people like just say yes to that and start on that journey?
That's my favorite part is, helping women in the identification of their soul fuel. And that's a process. That's what I mentioned, SoulFUEL discovery. I mean, once you know what your soul is here to do and you put it into words and it's passed what I call the litmus test and it is certain and it's solid, it doesn't change either. You can't not do it. You can't not do it. That is what gives you the courage to go after it, to do it, to build it, to create it. The question of how do I make money with that is what I also help women with inside discovery, which is the second half of the process, is the monetization. So how do you position it? How do you message? What's your high level positioning and messaging to attract your ideal clients so it's appealing to them? And that's the business of marketing aspect, that when you apply it to your soul's work, that's when it can work. I think a lot of the lack of confidence is just a lack of knowing, the steps, and everyone needs guidance and help in those steps. Once you have the steps, it's like, okay, I can see this now. But when you're trying to do it on your own and spinning in circles, of course it's scary.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the ego or the gremlins, I call them the gremlins, like, who you? It's already been done. Tony Robbins is already doing it. Therese is already talking about it. Wendy already did that.
Yeah.
Like our gremlins will try to talk us out of it. So you really need somebody's powerful belief. But Wendy, the part that I just want to go, hold on, let's pick this back up. You can't not do it.
Yeah.
That is I had a very well-established client come to me, and she had a whole business, totally referral based, making millions. And she's like, I got this program that my soul wants me to do. And I said, you don't have to. Like, you were like literally defend why you need to, because you don't need to. You don't need the money. You don't need, and what it was is I said to her, your soul's not going to let you off the hook, is it? And she's like, oh God, no. Right. Like, and so that's when you know it's soul, when it just doesn't.
It won't leave you alone. It won't leave you alone. It literally won't leave you alone.
Have you had any moments where you're like, can I just please go back to corporate? Or no, I don't mean that. I don't mean that literally. What I mean is, did you ever wish the soul would just let you off the hook? Or were you always in like, okay, cool, I'll just go along?
I've never, ever for a second wanted to go back to corporate. I had headhunters, Apple, huge companies, right? Pursuing me with amazing offers for several years. And I was like, this is the universe's test to see if I'm really committed to my calling. Because, I took a little time to learn how to make the money, right? So I've never looked back or never for a second. But so what was your question? Your question was like, have I ever wanted it to go away? Or it was scary. I would say that it was scary that when I didn't know how to make a living at it, there was that period of time of like, okay, I know I'm supposed to do this, but how am I going to actually make a sustainable, consistent, like stable income doing this work? That was scary, but I can't say I ever wanted it to let me go.
Okay. Good.
I will say, like, there's always that next level. So right now I'm being called to another level that there might be a moment where I'm like, do I have to be the person? Like serious, do I have to be the person?
Really?
And it's such an honor though, but like I have had those moments right now, presently, about this next thing, because it's scary. Anytime you go to that next level, waiting for fear to go away is just literally, you're going to wait your whole life. You're always going to feel fear to some degree. It's how to manage it. That's why I have so many tools to handle fear, myself and then for my clients, because it always comes up.
Right. So it's doing it in spite of the fear, because I think what happens is when you just start, or when you're up leveling, either one, you're still the same place. The part of us that is trying to play safe is going to look for signs. Oh, see, I got that job offer. Maybe that's a sign. No, and I love what you said. Bullshit. What I say is it's a way to strengthen your yes. Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh no, a shiny object, And so the fear as well is like, so how do you navigate? Like, give just 3 tips.
I have so many.
I know. We could talk for 7 hours.
I love the topic of fear. That's just such a fun, juicy one. Let me just say really quick though, with what your point is around, like, you get the job offer, you think it's a sign, maybe I should go back, right?
Right.
Here's an important thing to do. It's when I imagine myself going back, how do I feel? This is just a simple way to do it.
Yeah. Nice.
When I imagine myself going, when I did that, I felt nauseous, sick, disgusted. No. When I imagined continuing on my path, I was like excited. Yes, fear, still fear there, but I was excited.
Right.
But no nausea, no disgust. So that was how I knew the sign. It wasn't a sign. It was a sign to strengthen my resolve, my commitment. That's it.
Exactly.
So in terms of fear, tools to manage fear, oh my gosh. First thing I think, Therese, is to put fear in its place. So first of all, you do not need to identify and be your fear. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to believe every thought that crosses your mind. You don't have to buy into it. I like to see fear as like a separate entity, that it's not you, it's out here.
Yes.
So if you can somehow separate, right, that this is an outside entity, and there's a couple different visuals I think can work really well. Everyone's different in how they visualize, but imagine fear at the wheel of your car and it's driving right now. Oh. And fear is a little kid. It's reckless. It does not care about you. It does not care where you're going. It does not care that you're happy. It's just fear. And it's in the wheel, driving your car. Woohoo! And you know what? It's going to drive you off the cliff. So I
love that one. Really good.
I like to think of it that way. And it's like, okay, dude, you got to get out of the driver's seat. So now we can't kick fear out of the car because it's just part of life right now on planet Earth and part of human nature. You could possibly strap it to the bumper of the car, but it's better to, I think, put it in the back seat. Okay. And just go, I hear you, and I'm in charge now.
Right.
So
beautiful.
That shift can be important. The other one that can work for people, especially people who've been bullied, who were bullied as children, is to consider fear a bully and give it a name. So if you had an actual bully in school, you could name it that, or you come up with a name of the fear, the bully who is fear. And pinning you down the playground, not letting you play, not letting you get up, telling you horrible things about yourself. If you think of it as a bully, sometimes that can conjure up the righteous anger.
Right. You're going to fight back.
Fight back, right? And to deal with it as that, you just no, I'm not going to listen to you. Yeah. Cool. I'm listening to the higher voice, the higher self, the yes, the bigger yes in my life.
That's awesome. Really.
The third one really quick.
Nice. Go.
My strategy, flip it, which is what is fear telling you? And I actually used this at a time in my life where I desperately needed it. With my aunt, my mom, and my sister cornered me at Thanksgiving, and they're like, is this really going to work? Do you think you might have to go back to a job? Blah, blah, blah. And I just used in my head, I took everything they said internally and I flipped it to the opposite. So they said, are you going to make money doing this? Do you think you might have to go back to work? In my head, I went, I'm going to make great money doing this. I'm never going to have to go back to work.
Nice. So fear is fuel, right? You kind of fueled it. Oh, that's so cool. That's great. Yeah.
Those are my quick ones.
Wow. And just think in 30 seconds, you got that. I want you all to follow Wendy because Wendy is oh my gosh, her writing is great. Her products are great. Service is fabulous. So where can folks follow you?
Well, wendycollier.com is my main site. And then you could always go to Instagram. I'm at Wendy Collier Worldwide as well.
Okay. And I know you have a free gift for my folks listening. So what do you want to share?
Yeah, I have a SoulFUEL starter bundle, which is 5 steps to confidence and clarity to grow your SoulFUEL business and impact the world in a big way. And that includes a audio program and 2 PDF downloads to get some SoulFUEL sparks going, what I call SoulFUEL sparks. The Passions to Monetize playbook is super, super powerful. Ooh. It actually gives you the passions you need to monetize. It's pretty much an ironclad process. And then you got the audio program as a complement as well. So yeah, it's
the link will be in the will be in the show notes as well too.
Thank you.
That's so awesome. Wendy, you're just I could hang out with you for days.
I know.
This is good. But I want you to just sort of go in and see if there's anything else that you want to share. And you have so much wisdom. You're just a wealth of knowledge, and just to see what your heart wants to share, or what your soul wants to reveal next. Final gift.
Yeah. Final gift. I think I would say just to look for those areas in your life right now where you are waiting for permission. You're waiting for someone to give you permission to do something you know you need to do in your heart. And that can be subtle. It can be really subtle, and it can be overt, and there's everything in between. So just noticing in your body and in your energy field, are you waiting? Is there a pause that you're waiting for permission from someone else to do the thing you know you're meant to do? And to give yourself that permission, to give you the big fat permission slip to unleash your soul fuel, to know, to discover what that is, to then step into that fully, step into your calling and be the person that you're meant to be without needing anyone else's permission.
Beautiful, beautiful. Very magical, powerful words. So gang, was I right? Did you enjoy this? I knew you would. I knew you would. So Wendy, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your just beautiful energy. I know folks are going to want to follow you. So thanks everybody for listening, and feel free. Why don't you send this episode to somebody that you know could use it? If you have a friend or a loved one that is kind of waiting for permission, or is at a place in their life where they're like, they need to make a decision. They need to say yes to themselves. They need to leave something, or they need to have the courage to pursue something. Send them this episode. Okay. Let's get it shared. All right. Peace and blessings. Much love, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, this is Therese, and I'm so excited that you were with us today for another episode of the Fiercely Brilliant podcast. You know, if you are inspired to get to that brilliant place, if you heard some wisdom today that made you think, yeah, I need some help in that area, I would encourage you to have a conversation with me. Super simple. You just go to thereseskelly.com/let's connect. It's a no charge, no pressure conversation. And if I can support you to clear the blocks, to really step into that brilliance, oh my gosh, it would be a delight. And I'll be honest with you, we'll just have a great conversation and see where we can take it. Peace and blessings. Bye.